this is Youza Rolf and this is the Female Angle. Today I have with me a writer, an entrepreneur, and a communication and design person. But for that's like, but how I know her is she critiques movies, even though she told me not to say that. And she's really damn funny. And I was like, I need to get this person on the podcast. So, Mahrukh Mohsin, everyone. Mahrukh.
Youza.
How are you, Mahrukh?
You can hear it from my voice.
Yeah, Mahrukh is pretty sick. But hopefully we'll get through this. So Mahrukh, I just want to start off by saying you're my cousin's friend, Shahan.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's really funny. It's kind of not related to you, but like Shahan and I have never spoken. We're cousins, but...
How does that work?
For 3 years, Shahan and I don't even say, like, when we used to meet in family dinners, he'd be like, hi, Youza. And then I used to say hi, and most of the time he never used to respond. And Shahan has this thing, whenever any of us have a birthday, he's like, HBD, that's it. That's the most amount of compassion one can receive from Shahan. Mm-hmm. He was the cousin bully. He used to paint our faces. I was the lion, my sister was a panda, and Zara was a tiger. And she'd be like, woof, woof. We were his pets.
Oh my God.
How did you become friends with such a devil, is the question.
Majboori.
Majboori.
I didn't have a lot of options.
You didn't have a lot
so
of
I kind
options?
of had to stick with what I got.
Yeah, I hope Shahan watches this.
He knows this. He knows this very well. It's just that he's a very low maintenance friend, so I don't really have to put in a lot of effort. So it's like...
Yeah, Shahan gives me those low maintenance
HBD.
friends. HBD.
HBD friend, yeah.
HBD friends. So, shifting from Shahan, our topic today is getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. So we'll shift to that in a while, but I want to start off by asking you how you started critiquing the insanely absurd Bollywood movies that no one would find absurd unless you pointed it out. Mm-hmm.
So basically, I've been watching Bollywood movies since I was a kid. So I think a lot of us were exposed to Bollywood to some extent, right?
Okay.
But when I grew a little older, then I realized that some of the concepts that were being shown in those movies were ridiculous. Like, if I'm using an example of a very mainstream movie, Kuch Kuch Hota Hai. When I was around in high school, I realized that movie was entirely dependent upon one of the protagonists dying. So if Tina did not die, everyone would be unhappy. I was like, how are we rooting for these two characters when we're also rooting for a death, essentially? So that was just the start of it, because then I started noticing these things in other movies.
Yeah.
So what I'd do was that I would force my friends to watch these movies with me.
Oh, okay.
So they would say, why would we watch it? It's such a bad movie. Why are we going to watch it? I would take them to the cinema to watch bad movies, because I would just enjoy the experience of watching something that all of us know is ridiculous. We're not taking it seriously.
It's kind of like a deconstruction class.
Exactly.
That's so funny.
Exactly. So that was just an extension of the practice that I had with my friends. So I thought that if we enjoyed it, maybe other people would enjoy it. So I think I started with Kabir Singh. And
such a ridiculous movie.
Kabir Singh is awful. It's awful. I think in one scene of Kabir Singh, he literally says to his girlfriend that pretty chicks should hang out with healthy chicks, because healthy chicks are like teddy bears. This is a dialogue from that movie, and I'm not it's not meant to be comedic.
I remember there was this instance in this movie where he's literally, I think he's in the phase where it's post breakup with his lover, and he's trying to he's being intimate with someone, and there's a part where he shows a knife to her face. And he's
romantic,
cool,
sweet,
cool, and it's just that's the definition of.
That's my idea of romance. If you aren't pulling a knife on me, is it even romantic?
You know what's scarier is when you go to these movies and you see these movies like these are playing in cinemas and people are rooting at scenes like this. That's scary, man. That's bro, what are you pursuing right now?
Yeah, exactly. And there's also one scene in the movie, he names his dog after the girl. The dog is named Preeti because the girl is Preeti. And that's supposed to be cute. How is that cute? But the problem with this is that I think a lot of us joke about it and we don't take it seriously, but I also really point out very often to my friends and the people I talk to that there is a vast majority of people
that actually believe in this.
Yeah.
It's so ingrained. They think it's normal. They think it's
so even if we're talking about Kabir Singh, it was one of the highest grossing Indian movies of the year. And
That is dangerous, man.
and the general narrative wasn't that this is a ridiculous movie. They were all like in love with Shahid Kapoor and his character. Because toxic masculinity, even not just for men, even for women, there's a very large section of women that find it attractive because they've been taught that, oh, a man that protects you, or a man that is angry, a man that fights for you is like the pinnacle of what love and admiration is, even though that shouldn't be the case. But again, all of these things are taught.
Yeah, and you know, when you say a lot of women admire this sort of behavior, and they also look down on bold women.
Yeah.
It's kind of sad, and I hate this women against women narrative that people pander on. But it's true, like, you know, like,
But
sexism
even the women against women narrative is driven by patriarchal concepts. So at the end of the day, it is benefiting men.
Yeah.
It's just that the women are not completely cognizant of the beliefs that they have because they're so deep rooted. It's
They're
like,
so deep-rooted. Like, dude, even for me, till 7th grade, I had to de-learn a lot of the behaviors that, you know, that were taught to me because I used to think they're normal. Like, you know, I used to be like, nahi, raat ke 3 baje main nahi ja sakti bahar. I have to take my dad with me. It's unsafe.
Yeah.
I didn't know that the onus was on the male walking his eyes at me, not me wearing anything I want.
And one interesting thing, I was having a conversation with a friend, and it's that if we, for example, we don't allow women to go out at night, right, generally. If we would just keep the men from going out, the men would also be safe. Because the threat comes from men. No one's ever scared of a woman following them in an alley. Like, even men are afraid of other men.
I know.
And this is what I feel like, I don't understand how this is not like a general consensus between all genders that men are the problem and men are the danger.
I know, and it's taken us such a targeted attack, man. Like, you know, like, it's just like, how dare you, like, you know, like, it's just like you're just like anti-male, you hate all male.
I think it's just a problem of changing the status quo. No one's comfortable with it. Like, even certain women won't be comfortable with it. Men obviously won't be, but even certain women might feel threatened because it's shifting your roles in society, and that's an uncomfortable thing for people to come to
giving up
grips
on
with.
a lot of privileges, right?
Yes, you are.
So that is not always going to be a comfortable fight. You need to be radical in some way to give up on privileges.
Even when it comes to privileges, also this falls very like directly into the, you know, needing to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Is there are certain things that women say, especially in Pakistani society, that we benefit from. The thing that you were mentioning a while ago in your other podcast about, you know, how at a production studio you were given chairs and like, aap baith jaye, ma'am, aap aurat hain, jo bhi hai. I feel like we need to sort of move away from those privileges as well. Like, when you're being given these things, deny them. Like, if you're being given a seat, deny it.
Like, if a guy is treating you, you'll just implicitly let him give the money, even though you can pay and you should. It's just like, no, you know, a guy is supposed to be.
We need to change our ideas of what chivalry is and what these things are, because I feel like as long as we don't really, or we aren't vocal about it, it's not going to change.
Exactly. You can't just be complicit in these things. You have to be vocal about it. But getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. I want to talk about poetry with you because you write very, very well. And if you guys haven't checked out Mahrukh's Instagram, she's very famous, by the way, but you should. You will keep laughing. I would suggest start with the highlight section. It's a whole binge watch, and just like start with the highlight section in Lollywood to start करें. फिर उसके बाद थोड़ा serious, well-researched conversations पे आ जाएं, captions, aka. But how did you become a writer, and how do you write so well? Like, there's no method, I know, but like. So I guess I just want to know the story.
So my writing career started with a poem called Cat in the Hat in the 3rd grade.
I read that.
No, I wrote it. Like, not the Dr. Seuss. Dr. Seuss.
I thought you were referring to the Dr.
Not the Dr. Seuss poem. It's the cat sat on the mat, wore a hat, ate a rat. So like, that is where my, you know, linguistic abilities really shined.
Wow.
They didn't. I was really bad in the beginning. But I just enjoyed writing a lot, and I feel like to a very high degree, I felt like I couldn't write up until like the 10th grade, 11th grade. I used to think that I'm not smart enough to be a writer, because everyone around me who used to write used to read a lot of literature, used to be very, like, you know, big readers. I'm not a reader, but I'm a writer. That's one of the weirdest things about me, is that I don't like reading.
Oh, I'm the
that
opposite.
Much.
I'm a reader, I'm not a writer.
I don't like reading that much, because I feel like, especially with a lot of classic literature, whenever I try to read it, I would feel like it is so heavy and so dense that I feel like I have to look for meaning in between things. Like, there was a lot of depth, and I'm not a very deep person. I'm a very, like,
Really?
I
feel
don't
like you're deep.
I don't understand how one would define depth. Like my depth is on the surface. That makes no sense.
But isn't that better? Because if you have a because this is a problem with research papers that I see most often. Okay, they could condense the text, that whatever they're saying, in 3 pages, but instead they go on and on and on for 30 pages using unnecessary jargon, because that's the status quo. Okay, bhai, if you are writing a research paper, you have to use certain linguistics, and they purposely add these barriers.
Yeah.
My teacher, my favorite professor, his name was Shahram Azhar, he explained this to me once. He's like, if you can't break down a very complex idea and explain it to the janitor or your grandma, then the idea is bad.
Yeah, 100%.
So I love it when you're saying surface level, because I feel like ideas need to be communicated easily, especially in an era where we're so distracted.
Yeah.
And it's so hard. Like, our attention spans are just deteriorating.
Non-existent.
Deteriorating.
Yeah.
Like, I get shocked and I work, and you do too. Like, I'm just like, how do I get distracted so easily?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
When someone talks about even university with me, right, I'm like, how will you sit through 8 hours of anything? Like, I can't imagine going back to school now.
Okay, so university.
Yeah.
You dropped out 4 times. Can you explain that?
Oh my God. Okay. So essentially, and this is something that I'm also very passionate about, is because I feel like the education system, not just in Pakistan, but generally the higher education system around the world, is just, it is skewed very heavily in favor of people with more means, better means, like, people from upper middle class and people who have more money. And I feel like regardless of what you tell me about scholarships hoti hain, opportunities hoti hain, it's just not equally balanced. The problem is that 2 students with equal capabilities, if one has more money, they're more likely to get a better education. And I feel like that
better
is
job, okay. Yeah.
better job, everything. Like, वो वहाँ से उनकी trajectory ही वहीं से शुरू हो जाती है.
क्योंकि social ladder climb नहीं करने की ज़रूरत होती ना, ऊपर ही होते हैं पहले से.
Exactly. So the problem with that was that when I was in university, when I started, so I was having a lot of issues in terms of what I wanted to do, because career counseling is not a concept यहाँ पे, unless you're going to like a top tier college. और उनके अंदर भी it's very like, I feel like myopic in the directions that they send you in. They're very specific. अच्छा, if you want to do business, you go to IBA or you go to LUMS, or if you have like more money, if you have a better academic profile, then you apply for scholarships, go abroad. It's set out. I feel like we're still not talking to students about what they actually want to pursue, the directions they want to go in, and most importantly, whether university is even necessary to get there. Because I feel like a lot of people, for example, like careers in design or careers in development, web development, I feel like if someone genuinely feels like they're not getting out of school what they should get, and if the coursework is detracting more rather than having them learn things that are applicable in their professional life, then they should be okay with leaving. And I feel like it's a very scary step for a lot of people to take, and a lot of people have been taking that step, because even in terms of work, I feel like university can only teach you so much. And with the amount of online resources that you have nowadays, I feel like anything that can be taught, you can learn yourself. And,
Exactly.
And if you want to find the right mentor, it's just a matter of making the effort to go out and find them.
Exactly. It's very interesting what you said, because I read a Twitter post, and so I get my knowledge from Twitter, guys.
Yeah.
So smart. But it was talking about how we get unnecessary courses. Like, university could be completed in 2 years.
Exactly.
Like, I wanted to pursue animation, but I get courses like international relations, or like Islamiyat, or like Urdu, which have nothing to do with animation, and I could be done with my degree in 2 years, practical, done and dusted. Usse bhi kam. But you said everything is available online. I just feel like, this pathway, the standard pathway के शादी ऐसे होने चाहिए, पढ़ाई ऐसी होनी चाहिए, 4 साल की timeline है.
Yeah.
We're still following that linear time. Some brave souls are trying to deconstruct that, but I feel like it's not that important.
But it's easier said than done, because I can tell you, I thought that dropping out the second time, the third time would be easier, but it's always, it's uncomfortable, because you're kind of disappointing yourself because you're quitting, right? You're giving up on something. And then there's like the social stigma that comes with it. Like there's the family pressure, because of course, koi bhi family is like not applauding, oh, thank you beta for dropping out. It's like they're not ecstatic, they're worried.
They are.
Because they're also thinking that, okay, like if she's dropping out, like does she have her head clear? And like second, third time, they were like, no, she doesn't. Like she doesn't know what she wants to do. So at one point, they just genuinely believed that I was kind of lazy.
Oh,
which
wow.
I am a little bit, because lazy is tarah se nahi ki I don't want to put in the effort, but I feel like my aptitude was never towards like learning from a textbook. I'm the kind of person who'll just fall into practical work.
Okay.
So even when I got my first internship, I was supposed to be there for 4 weeks, but I ended up being there for 5 months. And it didn't matter to me how much I was being paid or if I was being exploited, which I wasn't, but I was getting to do work through which I was learning so much about a field that I was interested in.
So you're you would describe yourself as a much more hands-on person.
Yeah, 100%.
It's interesting because I shifted my degree because of the exact same reason. I was in Habib, I was doing social development and policy, and the teachers there were amazing, to their credit. But I felt like it was much more theory-oriented.
Yeah.
When I came here, I had to learn how to work a camera, I had to learn how to do animation, like technical stuff.
Yeah.
And that clicked something in me. And for some people, it's also a personality trait. Some people are comfortable being theory oriented.
Yes.
But I feel like for us, it's more like we're more comfortable being in the field.
Yeah.
So that's very interesting.
Yeah. So I feel like at this point, people should be comfortable with doing whatever they feel like falls into their, category of what's easier for them to learn.
Yeah.
Like you were saying that someone's more hands-on, someone is more like theory-oriented. So like if you figure that out about yourself, make the shift. It's fine because you're not going to learn as much as you would. You're wasting 4 years of your life essentially not learning as much as you could have, not making the most of what you could have done.
Okay.
So that's how I got into communications and content and marketing because I know for a fact that if I traditionally marketing parti, BBA karke, I would have hated it. Because
You would
I hate jargon. I hate how seriously people take themselves. That is a big pet peeve of mine. Especially in the corporate world. I don't really work in the corporate world. I'm more into like the startups and entrepreneurship side of things. Because I've only ever worked at startups. So I purposely don't work at corporates because I hate jargon and I hate how seriously people take themselves. I hate the amount of
I feel
importance.
like that also blocks out creativity.
Yes,
the
it
way
does.
things are done.
It does.
Because are you used to studying in like noisy environments?
I'm not used to studying at all. The last time I studied was in A-levels, which is like 9 years ago.
I have 2 dogs and like 2 siblings, pretty loud. So I'm like, that's my constant environment. I'm like used to पढ़ाई कर लेती हूँ
I can't look at a textbook for more than 10 seconds. If there's no pictures on the page, I can't.
Wow.
Yeah. My attention span is gone.
Gone?
Thanks, TikTok.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Instagram.
Instagram, TikTok,
Yeah.
everything.
Do you ever see your screen time and just get like a heart attack? Like, I spent 4 hours on Instagram. What is wrong with me?
4? I spent 11 one day.
Okay, that-
No, but I'll tell you why. Because my job involves going on Instagram because I was handling my, company's pages.
Oh, that makes sense.
So then I'm also using my own and then my company, like not my company, why am I calling it a company? Like the stationery brand that I also run, that is also on Instagram.
Can you talk about that a little? I wanted to ask you about the stationery brand. You make really good stationery. It's pretty.
Thank you.
So how did you start that up?
That was also because I thought I'm really funny. I don't know if anyone agrees, but like generally, my idea was that I have always really liked greeting cards. So like when I was younger, har Eid pe, like I would go with my mother to like the bookstore and get Eid cards for all my class, like my entire class.
Cute.
And I would give them Eid cards every Eid. They didn't deserve that kindness. I don't think anyone deserves the kind of kindness I gave to them. I'm kidding. They're nice people. But I really liked it. I liked doing it. But then as I grew older, my humor changed and my, aesthetics changed. And I couldn't find anything here that was like funny or like clever. Like it was always puns. It's like I don't want to do puns. It's like ho gaya puns ka. Like puns
is like kind of overrated now.
No, puns were 2012, 2010 was funny then for like 2 minutes and then we just played it out too long. Okay. So under the guise of like, oh, dad joke, haha, ironically, I'm like, but
Your mama so fat jokes.
Your mama so fat and dead baby jokes. Like I can't.
Do you feel like jokes are also gender segregated? Like your mama so fat, she's passing by this TV and Germany scored 2 goals.
Yeah.
Like
100%.
what? Doesn't make sense.
100%. Profanities and jokes and all of these things. There's always underlying issues when it comes to gender disparity. Okay, why are all of our profanities geared towards women, our mothers and sisters? It's like, man, the brothers and fathers feel left out. Like, give them a little bit of attention too. Like, why can't we say things to them?
Yeah.
So if we notice these things, they're very subtle, but I feel like they carry forward into generations. And
They do, sadly. And I feel like we need to break the chain.
Yes, which is
It's
why
high time.
even when, because we're privileged to be in more liberal circles where people are a little more progressive and willing to have these conversations. So I feel like whenever someone does, for example, use profanities that involve women, I always ask them, not in a very aggressive way, but I'd rather ask them that, is there something you'd rather substitute this with? Like, use a neutral term. Like,
Yeah.
And then they're like, Mahrukh, you're asking us to swear neutrally. And I'm like, yes, listen to me. But the general idea is that maybe the first time this conversation will be ridiculous. Maybe the second time it will be ridiculous. Maybe the third, fourth time they might start to understand. So like...
Yeah, and a lot of people, I've met people in my life where they haven't said anything in the first instance. Like I had this friend who used the word rape.
Yeah.
In a very derogatory manner. And I was just so shocked, like, frozen in time, that at that point I couldn't say anything.
Yeah.
But the next time I met him, I was like, yo, you made this joke. And it was pretty offensive. And I hope you don't make it that again.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's okay if guys or girls, if you're sitting in an environment, and especially guys, because guys I feel like are really... they get really like, like, oh, I can't say this in front of my guy friends. Like, like it's gonna make me look less of a male.
Yeah.
Like if I say anything against them, they're gonna start making fun of me. And it's fine if you don't feel like, if in that moment you're just stuck by something, you can say it again.
Exactly.
I feel like people should keep that option open.
100%. And I was having a conversation that was very important because I feel like I hadn't really thought of it that way before. This was years ago. So essentially, on the topic of rape, because people tend to make jokes about rape a lot. And at one point, it was a big issue. Now I feel like it's much better than it was, say, 5-7 years ago, because people were making jokes very openly at that point.
Yeah.
So we were having a conversation on this, and one of my friends said that, what are you getting out of this joke? Because the other person was saying that, I am in an environment where everyone understands that it is not coming from a place of like maliciousness or like ill intent. And they all know that my intention with this is not to take away from the severity of what it is. But then my other friend was like, regardless of that, what is it adding for you? Like, how different...
You could use a different word.
No, just don't make a joke about rape in the first place.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, you're saying that it's stifling your creative expression or whatever, but that's such a small price to pay in terms
Just
of like
being a decent fucking human being, man. Like, I don't know how hard it is.
Exactly. So that really made me realize that there's a lot of things, a lot of jokes that we make under the guise of others will understand. But what we're not talking about is the fact that why are we making them in the first place?
You critique movies, and a lot of the times when you're critiquing movies, I read your captions, and I think 80% of the time they're targeted towards women in a very, very offensive manner.
They are.
And like these Bollywood movies that I grew up watching, and I grew up like, like getting ingrained in my head, like being fed up. They have, if you look back, they have really, really offensive underlying tones.
Yeah.
Like girls being smacked, or like, girls being, her butt is being smacked or something like along those lines.
Yeah.
And wo gaane mein masti mein chal raha hota hai.
If I'll give you one example right now, and this is not even like, because I try to also consume a lot of Pakistani content because I want to see
what's being made here.
Yeah, like what people are being told. So essentially, there's one of the biggest dramas right now on air is called Hum Kahan Ke Sache The. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's Mahira Khan, Kubra.
No, I don't.
Usman Mukhtar is like A-list cast, and like the problem with that drama is that the entire narrative is that it is 3 cousins and it's a love triangle between 3 cousins, and 2 of
isn't it?
Yes, and of course the 2 women are after the one man, and
it's always the same structure. Like the woman is the malicious one.
And the problem is that both of the women are such caricatures, because one is like the badtameez, bold, but bold to matlab yehi hai na ki she's going to be the villain. Like there's no other chance. And the other one is like this very like studious, and like she wears glasses and shalwar kameez and like dupatta pehni hoti hai hamesha.
वो अच्छी वाली होगी.
वो अच्छी वाली है, ज़ाहिर सी बात है. And she's
white पहना हुआ होगा.
Exactly.
Purity represent करने के लिए.
So my biggest problem with these shows is that I know that hundreds of people are involved in the production. And I know the odds are that there are a lot of progressive people that are also involved in the production, who are progressive in their private lives. But I feel like it's horrible that you can separate your work from your own beliefs.
You're actually the first person who's talking about class as an issue. I feel like people miss out on class so much. What you said, progressive in their personal lives, I don't want to name anyone, but the high caste people,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they're progressive. Like,
Or they
Myra
they claim
Khan,
to be.
Myra Khan claims to be like, she runs Mashin and she claims to be this female-oriented actress.
Yeah.
But if you're perpetuating that same freaking narrative,
Exactly.
like, the responsibility falls on you. Ke bhai,
Yeah.
do better. If you are someone who has access to resources, vagera,
Yeah.
then you should do better. Like,
Exactly. But I feel like most productions, especially in mainstream cinema and mainstream TV, they're still focusing on ratings, right? The number of people that are going to watch a show.
clickbait.
Yeah. And it's not even necessarily clickbait. It's more along the lines of like what the audience is already accustomed to and comfortable with, and they don't want to break that cycle in fear of losing ratings, because they know that if, for example, cousin relationships ki baat karenge, so we will reach a wider audience, because the audience that they're targeting does generally romanticize these things. They still do. And I feel like we don't talk about these things enough because we live in our own bubbles. Wow, I got aggressive. I'm sorry, I hit the mic. I apologize. The mic forgives me.
The mic forgives you.
No, but essentially I feel like because we're so used to being in our own bubbles, we don't really realize कि कितने ज़्यादा लोग हैं that are actually still subscribing to these beliefs.
Yeah. So how do you think people would then go on to create good content if because you need to make money at the end of the day, when you wouldn't survive as a creator.
So essentially I would say that if we look at other markets as examples, if we look at India, because I feel like India has evolved a lot in terms of content. They're still producing a lot of regressive shit, but they're also producing a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
Like, they're also producing a lot of progressive things. They're producing like new content,
People here
experimental
get
content.
so like offended if you like compliment India, especially in Lollywood. Like, oh no, they have a better industry. They have a better budget. It's not much more budget at times. Your script does not have much to do with the budget.
Yes, exactly. That's my entire problem. I feel like there are so many movies here. I'm not gonna. I want to name them, but I'm not naming them for the sake of your editing process. So that otherwise you'll be editing names half the time. But there's a lot of movies here that I have really loved in terms of cinematography, in terms of all technical aspects of what it looked like, of the sound. A lot of really good industry professionals exist within Pakistan, so that's not a constraint. Sure, maybe access to different kinds of like infrastructure, that is a problem. वो इंडिया में बहुत ज़्यादा है. लेकिन technical knowledge यहाँ लोगों की थोड़ी बहुत है. What I feel like the issue is the writing, the scripts.
It's like going to touch up on that.
Yeah.
I was working at a studio, and wahan pe I was working with really, really apt animators who were really technologically apt, more apt than I am. And my teacher was like, यहाँ पे सबको skills आती हैं, like Maya software वगैरह चलाना आता है, but storytelling होती है ना, that's missing. They'll just run on the same kisi piti story. And what you're saying, like, I feel like it's a problem with every field here.
Yeah.
The storytelling narrative, right?
Yeah.
या तो उसको importance इतनी दी जाती, या वही डर से वही structure पे follow करते हैं. Just want to touch up on on one last thing. Getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. So I read a lot of your captions, and I feel like you're a very humble person, even if you don't come across as one. But like you are. And
what do you mean I don't come across as a humble person?
you
I'm
do
so
come.
humble.
You're so like I love how you're like you just have this monolithic sarcastic tone to you. It's just like it's one tone, and you don't know if you're being funny or not, and you're just like.
This is a general issue with everyone in my life.
Awkward silence.
Yeah,
like,
because
should I laugh? And that's funny.
When someone meets me for the first time, like the first few times, they have always said the same thing. Mahrukh, we couldn't tell when you were joking and when you weren't.
I feel like those people are the funniest people. Because when people try too hard, it's just like, too much energy, man.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Sometimes it's good, but like most of the time it's like,
Yeah.
But I wanted to talk to you about beauty standards and
we'll be here all day.
Friendships. This is the last thing. Then we're just wrapping it up.
So in terms of beauty standards, so one thing that is not a defining characteristic, but something that I feel like I haven't really been able to find someone to relate with on this is that I don't use makeup, like ever at all.
Yeah.
Because ever since I was a kid, I felt like I didn't need it. So like my entire thing was when other people had started doing it, I always felt like it's an added expense. It's an added effort. It all comes down to being lazy, I think. Because I feel like मेरी पूरी ज़िंदगी का यही है.
I feel like it's more about being practical, man.
No, I'm just joking. It's not about being lazy necessarily. See, this is what happens. Like I was joking, but no one could tell. But essentially the thing is that at that age, I realized I don't need to do this. So like even one thing that I was noticing was that one of my friends had a daughter. So she's around like 7 or 8 years old now. So she's at the age where she's kind of more impressionable. She's looking at adults and she's wanting to do those things. So my friend told me that she did not, like one of her friends had asked her why she had not gotten like all dolled up for like a wedding. And then she had said that because I don't do these things, she also didn't want to do them. So like because kids look up to people, right? So she had told my friend that because of me, because she really looked up to me, because of course I'm a role model, an idol, an
Obviously,
icon.
who
an
wouldn't
icon, yeah.
look up to you?
A national treasure.
National treasure.
So essentially,
Self-love all the way,
yeah.
baby.
So that's what my perspective was, that a child as young as 8 years old can learn to be comfortable in their own skin and understand that you're fine. Like it doesn't really
I feel
matter.
like when we were kids, it was much more easier because we aren't taught the beauty standards and like the things that we are taught, because on Instagram it's just like pehle you had to go make an effort like to buy a magazine. Right now it's just to scroll away. And it's like filters and everything.
Also, one last thing that I would want to talk about regarding this is if you touched upon Instagram, the problem with the way Instagram is functioning right now is that influencer culture. Influencers are shown to be like the person next door or like someone who you can relate to, someone who's just like you, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, they do have a lot of privileges because the amount of clothes that they have, it's not normal. Like they're being sent a lot of those things.
It's pretty bad for our planet too.
That is, 100%. That is my latest post plug, shameless plug. But essentially it is because I feel like a lot of us don't really understand the negative implications subliminally जो हो रहे होते हैं उनके.
सही कह रही हूँ.
Even if you look
मैं भी
at,
ये सोचती हूँ. Like I'm just like ये कपड़े कहाँ से आते हैं इनके पास?
even if you look at the content formats, transition videos are the worst because you're changing 6 outfits in like 6 seconds. So you're just ingraining this idea into women that you need,
and then you're
that
making
many
us feel
clothes.
guilty about not having those.
Yes.
Like it's just like it's like you're seen as a lesser woman.
Yes.
So just last thing, because we are getting a little late
I'm
on
sorry.
time. No, it's not your fault. It was some other time issue. But I asked this to everyone. What does the female angle, your female angle, mean to you?
My female angle, I think, it means to me. That's a very loaded question.
Just
You're putting me on the spot.
narrow it down
You're
to
putting
2
me
or
on the
3
spot.
lines. Just something. What is the female angle to you? What does the femme fatale represent to you?
Just
or
for
the
myself
female?
or in general?
Just for yourself.
For myself, I feel like it's kind of making an effort to figure out what feminism and what femininity is to me as opposed to what it is to everyone else and what they want me to believe about
Beautifully
it.
put.
Yeah. So as opposed to general feminine traits, I
Yeah.
would define feminism or femininity in my own manner as opposed to being told what it is.
Cool.
Yeah.
Jolly, and I think that's a wrap. Thank you for coming, Mahrukh. I am so happy that I know Shahan, so I know you, even though Shahan and me have a really awkward
He
relationship.
serves a purpose.
He did serve a purpose for the first time in his life. Good work, Shahan.